Om Brahmanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvātītam Gaganasadarsyam Tattvamasyaadilakṣyam Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadi Sakshibodham Bhavatītam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namah. So, we are going to take this very seriously, so I got the text. I hope you don't mind. We have days, we have today, we have tomorrow, we have day after, so we go slowly. Of course, we will get Kriya, don't worry. But let's make a background for a base for why we need to do Kriya and so on. So, as I promised you yesterday, bear with me, I might do a little bit of Sanskrit and then translate and so on. Okay? So, as I promised you yesterday, we are going to do one of the major Upanishads today, the principal Upanishads. One of them, which is the Mundaka Upanishad, which comes from the Atharva Veda. There are four Vedas, Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, Atharvana Veda. This Upanishad comes from the last, which is the Atharvana Veda, Atharva Veda, whatever you want to say. So basically it's an invitation to go deeply into the understanding of the core of consciousness, which is common to you and to the world. So this is the invitation in this. So before I start, let me say that the Upanishad is that portion of the teachings, old teachings, which are attached to the last portion of the Vedas. We have Vyasa codified the Vedas and compiled them into four parts, and Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, you don't have to by heart, Atharva Veda, four. And the first portion is called the Samhitas. They're like hymns sung. But the hymns have something hidden in them. And the last portion, of course, in between there is the Brahmanas, then there is the Aranyas, and then comes the Upanishad. And the Upanishads are that part of the Vedas which are attached at the end of each Veda. And they are the ones who explain the hidden meanings of words which are inside the Samhita portion. So this is the Upanishad. So it is the essence of the wisdom of the Vedas, let's put it this way. And still it's attached to the end of the Vedas, of the Samhitas. Therefore it's called Vedanta. That's the meaning of the word Vedanta, which means Anta in Sanskrit is end. And Veda. So Vedanta, that which is at the last portion of the Vedas. Well, it could also mean it's that which when studied, there is nothing more to study. Anta, end. Not in the sense of stopping understanding, but in the sense of stopping ordinary understanding, so that the other expands. So that's also Upanishad. Now quickly, though I have repeated this many times, there are new people. Upanishad has 3 syllables. Upa means to sit close, as we are sitting now. I wish I could sit there, but then you can't see me. The last line would have to look like this. So, whereas Upanishads were those things which were taught in the forest hermitages. This looks like a forest hermitage, lovely. By the rishis who sat close together with their students and intimately discussed these matters. So it's Upa, means close together, near, N-E-A-R, near. It also means that part of the ancient teachings that takes you nearer to the Supreme Truth. So one would say, why didn't they say it takes you to the truth? The only thing you can do is to go as near as possible to the ultimate. Because when you have touched it, then you are not there anymore. There's only that. So, literally you can only say go near. Somebody said, it's like the salt doll, a doll made of salt, going to the ocean to measure its depth. Then where is the salt doll? There is no salt. There is only the ocean. So therefore we can only go as close as possible. So that's also another meaning of the word upa, close, near. Then shad. Shad literally means sit down. Now we are all in the shad position to understand the Upanishad. It means to sit. It also means not only to physically sit, but the mind to sit. The mind also has to sit down, otherwise you might be here, but so sitting down, settling down to mind. Adi Shankara, who has commented on many of the Upanishads, has found another meaning also for it. From, Sanskrit is a word. If you go into the Sanskrit dictionary, for one word there are several meanings. So he said one of the meanings that apply here is shad also means to shake up. Nothing to do with the shakes, to shake up, which means, to shake up our idea of ourselves and the world. We have some established ideas about ourselves and of the outside world. So it's a shaking up of so-called linear logic. You know what linear logic? Something is there and I need to go there, travel there to find it. The Upanishad says when something is everywhere, how do you go there? If you're there and I need to see you, I need to come. But what if you're also here? What do I do? So, this is the Upanishad is all about that. So, it also means to shake up the ways in which we think. The Gita talks about a tree which has its roots above and branches below. Urdhva It means to put everything on his head. It means suddenly you look and you find that you have been going in the reverse direction, can be traced back to the source. The normal way of achieving something is to move out and hold, grasp. Here, to let go all grasping and go back to the center. This is Upanishad. So you see how important it is for us to look at it. So, I'm going to take up this. Don't laugh. Sometimes yogis also need glasses. Many Upanishads. So I need to, So this Mundaka Upanishad, the problem is then I look here, I can't see you. So don't be distracted by my wearing, taking out and so on, I'm sorry. Because when I one-pointedly give attention here to the glasses, I can't see you, then I have to. So this comes from the Atharvaveda, as you said, and here is the first section of the Mundaka. I explained to you yesterday that Mundaka means to clean shave your head, which means to take off all that is grown here and be free. And so therefore some people think it's meant for renunciants, sannyasins, but it's not really. One doesn't become a renunciant by shaving one's head. It's a trend now, lots of young people have shaven heads, so what do we do? Anyway, so here we go. I'm going to read this, and it's very simple. But I would like to read, at least for some time. If we find that we're short of time, then we'll speed up and not take the Sanskrit. But it's nice to begin with. And then I will translate it first and then comment on it in the traditional way. So here we go. Brahma Devanam Pratamaha Sambhabhuva Vishwasya Karta Bhuvanasya Gupta Sab Brahma Vidyam Sarva Vidya Pratishtham Atharvaya Jeshta Putraya Praha. Now this is a statement made by the Upanishad that Brahma, the creator, rose as the first among gods. Not one, but many gods. Of the many things that happen in nature, some intelligence is in charge of it. And Brahma, the creator, was the first one among these intelligences who is the designer of the universe as it proceeds and the protector of the world. So it's not the Brahman which is the supreme. So the next sentence shows it's not talking about the supreme, all-pervading essence, but about something little lesser than that, lower than that. Brahma, the creator, is not the ultimate. You see this difference? So, out of that, among the gods that create, that destroy, when I say gods here, it means the powers of nature, deified. Brahma, the creator, rose first. And then what did he do? He taught the knowledge of the Brahman, because he should know, he rose first. So he must be knowing the real knowledge of the Brahman. So please watch the distinction between the word Brahma and the word Brahman. So Brahma, the first, who knew the knowledge of the Brahman, which is the supreme, he taught his knowledge of the Brahman, which is the foundation of all knowledge. Sarva Vidya Pratishtham, which is the base, the foundation of all knowledge that exists, this world and next. He taught it to Atharvan, his eldest son. He's simply saying that this is being passed on from Brahma to someone called Atharvan. And that knowledge of the Brahman, which Brahma taught to Atharvan, which we are going to discuss now. Tall order, right? Brahma taught to Atharvan, and we humble beings are going to discuss it. So that knowledge of the Brahman, which Brahma taught to Atharvan, and Atharvan in olden times taught to Angirasa. Don't worry about it, these are some names. Genealogy, Angirasa. He in turn taught it to Satyavaha, son of Bharadvaja. And the son of Bharadvaja taught it to Angirasas. What kind of knowledge? Knowledge, the higher and the lower knowledge. Both. This is the lineage. Not so important. And then the next third sloka. Saunako havai mahashalo angirasam vidhivat upasanaha paprachaha kasminnu bhagavo vijñāte sarvam idam vijñātam bhavati. Saunaka was not a renunciant, was not a monk, was like you and me, a householder. Describe Saunaka, the householder. You know, I think in the West people don't understand. Householder, do you hold the house? It means somebody who has a family, who's married. You know. So Saunaka, the householder, the great householder, not ordinary, duly approached Angirasa, the great sage, who has derived it in the lineage we discussed, with great respect, and asked him this question. What is that question? Kasmin no bhagavo vijñāte sarvamidam vijñātam bhavati iti. He asked him, what is it through being known, O sir, venerable sir, does all this become known? He said, is there we heard so, but is it true? Can you tell me, is there that which when you know everything here? Which also, we need to look at it a little bit. That doesn't mean one has become omniscient, because the human brain is so conditioned, and the mind, which is kind of product of it, is so conditioned, it cannot be omniscient, omnipotent, or omnipresent. So, it's only when it has subsided and something else takes over, then there is omniscience, omnipresence, and so on. But it doesn't matter. We like to be omniscient because we like to know everything. When you know something, nothing more remains to be known, then it makes no sense. Which means that which when known is so full, complete and satisfying that there is nothing more remains to be known. Not that when you know it, people go to a great sage and ask him about population control or physics and expect him to know. No. This is not what is meant here. What meant is, when that is known, one has known what is to be really known, and therefore nothing more remains to be known. Of course, when the mind becomes calm, it grows and becomes better than the ordinary mind, no question. But still it has its limitations. When it has completely subsided, then the other is. When the other is, you cannot say, I have it, it's it. That, not me. So, he said, can you tell me, Shaunaka, the great householder, approached Angirasa and asked, Venerable sir, through what being known does all this become known? Is there something which I know, and I know everything about everything? There's nothing that remains to be known because everything is over. Aim of my life is over, satisfied. Tasmai saho vacha dive vidya vidittavye iti smayat brahma vidho vadanti paracha aparacha. Paracha eva paracha. So the great Angirasa said, the sage Angirasa said, to him he said, there are two kinds of knowledge to be known. He didn't say you should not know. He said there are two kinds of knowledge to be known, as the great knowers of the Supreme Brahman declare. There are two kinds of knowledge in this world to be known. What are the two kinds of knowledge? The higher knowledge and the lower knowledge. So when Shaunaka approaches Angirasa and says, tell me that which when known, nothing more remains to be known, Angirasa says, the great knowers of the Brahman, of the Supreme Reality, have declared there are two things to be known. One is the lower knowledge, and the other is the higher knowledge. So why should we know the lower knowledge? To survive. Anything to do with our world, our life, everything will come to this. And the higher knowledge, then what is higher? Will come to the next one. So now don't be shocked. The next sloka gives you a complete list of lower knowledge. Don't be shocked. After having said Upanishad, having said that you need to know the lower and the higher, first Angirasa gives a list of what he thinks or what he knows is to be the lower knowledge, so that when that is eliminated, then there is only higher knowledge. So what does he say? Interesting. 5. Sloka 5. In India we say 5, so it's 5. Tatra para rigvedo yajurved tatra apara. Lower knowledge What is lower knowledge? According to Upanishad, which is Shruti from the Vedas. Rigvedo, Yajurvedaha, Samavedo, Atharvaveda, Shiksha, Kalpo, Vyakaranam, Niruktam, Chando, Jyotisham, Iti, Atha, Parayaya. What is the lower knowledge? All the Vedas are lower knowledge. Does it mean that you shouldn't study? Because this is also part of the Vedas. That's why they said it has to be known also. Because when you know, then you know that. So, but actually the lower knowledge is the Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharvaveda, all the Vedas from which we derive our knowledge. Because why? It's like explained in the end. And also the Veda Angas, which means the extension of the Vedas, which is Kalpo, Vyakarana, Nirukta, Chando, Jyotisham, which means phonetics. When you learn Sanskrit, it's important to learn phonetics. Also in the Vedas, phonetics. Ritual, what rituals to perform for various things, including even meditation is a kind of ritual. And grammar, why grammar? Because with grammar, if you look, there is a complete system in ancient knowledge which is called Tarka Shastra. And for Tarka, meaning the science of argument, argumentative Indian, the science of argument. Tarka. Now, if you have to do Tarka, you have to know grammar. Because one word has so many grammatical constructions and so on. And then etymology of the word, metrics, and astronomy. All these are considered to be the lower knowledge, starting from the Rig Veda. The Rishi Angirasa says all this is lower knowledge. But as proclaimed before, two things have to be known, the lower and the higher. The lower to be known to understand its limitations, and the higher to find the truth. So then what is higher knowledge? The same sloka says, iti. After having said this is the lower knowledge, iti, it says, atha parayaya tad aksharam adigamyate. That alone is the highest knowledge, the higher knowledge, which when understood, one attains the indestructible, imperishable reality. That which cannot be destroyed. Akshara. It is very interesting. In Sanskrit, the alphabet is called Akshara, not alphabet. Alphabet is because alpha, beta and so on. Akshara is a name given to the alphabet, which means indestructible, starting with A. So, the Rishi Angiras tells this man, listen, all this is lower knowledge. So he said, then what is higher knowledge? Higher knowledge is that by which the imperishable, supreme reality is comprehended. That is the higher knowledge. Which means, even if you know all this, if you don't apprehend that which is the essence of being, it's still lower knowledge. Not that you shouldn't study. If you don't study, how do you know? This is part of the Atharvaveda. Not saying throw all your Vedas away into the sea. No. It means that unless and until the ultimate, the supreme reality is understood, all this is lower knowledge. Well, there have been great sages who touched the immeasurable, indestructible without going through all this also. Possible. Why not? But for most of us, people like you and me, this is a good guide to understand ultimately that. Although, per se, it is lower knowledge. I hope Any clarification on this? Or shall we proceed? Proceed. Then comes the next section. After having said the highest knowledge is that by which one grasps the imperishable, it tries to describe the imperishable, source of things which cannot be perceived with our senses. So what does he say? Tad yat tad adrishyam agrahyam shushukmam sad avyayam yad bhutayonim paripashyanti dhira. Yat tad adrishyam agrahyam agotram avarnam achakshushotram tad apanipadam nityam vibhum sarvagatam shushukmam tad avyayam tad bhutayonim paripashyanti dhira. That imperishable reality, knowing which is the higher knowledge, is ungraspable. Maybe it reveals itself when all grasping ends. Ungraspable, no, without a family, without a caste, without sight, without hearing, without hands or feet, eternal, all-pervading, omnipresent, exceedingly subtle. That is the undecaying, which the wise perceive as the source of all beings. That which is ungraspable. Because if you grasp it, then it must be something to do with your finite mind. Also, it has no family, neither born nor dying. So no father and no mother. No caste. This is specifically mentioned because in India, today not so much, but there was this thing about the caste system. Some people belong to the lower caste and some people belong to the higher caste, and there were the highest and the lowest, and the lowest cannot come near the higher and so on. Untouchable. So says the Rishi, that supreme reality had no family and no caste and no creed. It's very interesting to note that traditionally, when a monk was ordained into the order of sannyas, renunciants, a fire was lit and he's supposed to break his sacred thread, which is a symbol of his being of upper caste, and thrown into the fire. Means now I'm free. So, it says there is no caste, there is no family, there is no origin. It's the ultimate supreme reality common to all. Eternal, all-pervading, omnipresent, exceedingly subtle. That is the undecaying essence of the universe, which the wise perceive in all things. Not as if because of having said this definition is hiding somewhere. The wise perceive it in everything, outside and inside. Because ultimately that's all that exists. All other existence is like a cinema, a film showed on the screen, projected. Now there's a beautiful description here, very metaphoric description of what they said before. Torna navihi srijate grinate cha yatha prithivyam aushadayas sambhavanti yatha satah purushat klesho mani tatha aksharat sambhavati havishvam. As a spider sends forth and draws in its thread, and as herbs grow on the earth, As the hair grows on the head and the body of a on the head of a living person, so from the imperishable arises this universe. Here the imperishable is metaphorically compared to a spider which spins its web and puts it out, and then when he wants withdraws it back. So there is no web but the spider, only the spider. But temporarily you see the web. And in that web, so many insects are trapped. So we are in that kind of web, trapped in some way. And, okay. And the Rishi says, it's like herbs growing on the earth naturally. Like the hair that grows on the head. The same way the universe comes forth from that imperishable and goes back to it in the end. So what you see is the appearance, and what is the reality is the supreme indestructible being. Which means for all the different things that you see, there's only one immeasurable being. And once, if someone even touches a little bit of that, he or she cannot distinguish and set anybody outside their circle. Everybody is the same, because we're all from the same source and we go back to the same source. So, why does he say that? Ungraspable. If it is ungraspable, what are we doing here? Can you grasp the ungraspable? It's not possible. So what are we doing? Why all the teachings and the sadhanas and everything that you do? When you say ungraspable, you know how we grasp things? When we grasp, first we use our five senses. First we see something. See how, I was about to say something, but let me see. You see a beautiful rose in the garden. Okay. And you first, what is the first step? I see, my eyes. And then I feel. And then I smell. And if it's something eatable, I also taste. And then I want to grasp it. Now, the problem is not at looking at the beauty of the rose. The problem begins when I want to pluck it and put it in my pocket. This is where the problem comes, the grasping. If I don't grasp, it's beautiful out there. But no, it has to be in my pocket. But then when you cut it and fix it, it dries. It's no more the same thing. Apparently, the great Irish but English playwright, George Bernard Shaw, was supposed to be very fond of flowers. So a young journalist went to interview him, and she said she couldn't find a single flower or any flowers inside the house, in a vase, in a thing. So she said, we heard that you love flowers, but I don't see any flowers here. So he opened the window, see in the garden, I love flowers, they're there. And he said, I also love little children, I don't cut their heads and put them in vases inside my house. So the problem is when you grasp, not when you see. So that which is ungraspable means when you are free of being caught by the senses, with the eyes, with the ear, and see that what is external is a temporary affair and what is internal is the essence of it. And then when you leave it, then you touch that which is ungraspable. That doesn't need any eyes to see or ears to hear. In fact, another Upanishad says, Chakshusha na pashyati, that which I cannot see. So, is this terrible? Are we living in this earth? Can we live without grasping? I'm trying to make a distinction. Appreciating, enjoying, but not grasping. If every human being wants to grasp everything that is good, what happens to the others? There's a root of conflict. So, Now there's another sloka which describes how the tapasya chiyate Brahma, how by the contemplative power Brahman, the Supreme, expands, and how food is produced, and mind is produced, and the elements are produced, and the worlds are produced, and then the rituals are produced, and finally there is immortality. Which means the expansion of something. The word bru in Sanskrit, which is a root word for Brahman, the Supreme, means expansion, expanding. The universe is ever expanding, and the Brahman is ever expanding. And as it expands, heat is produced, combustion. Another word for heat is tapas. We think tapasya means austerity. It also means heat, combustion. So when it expands, there is heat, and from heat reactions take place, and this whole world of herbs and everything comes up. The one who knows that the essence of this expansion is the indestructible Supreme attains immortality. Because then he realizes, I'm not this, I'm not the mind, I'm not any of these, then what am I? I'm beyond all this, what am I? The indestructible. In true essence. To understand that is supposed to be to understand and realize that one is immortal. In another Upanishad, this is the question that is looked. Is there something by which one can become immortal? And the teacher says, you are immortal, but you think you are mortal. Because you are identified with all these little things. There is no way by which the body can be made immortal. It can last for a long time, but not more than that. But is there? Yes, your true essence never dies because it's never born. The body does, of course. Yah sarvajna sarvavid yasya jnanamayam tapaha tasmat etat brahma namarupam annam cha jayate. From that all-knowing, all-wise, indestructible Supreme Brahman has come all this that you see around you. Name, form and food. Nama and Rupa. These are two things which are very important. In Upanishadic philosophy, there is a great deal of discussion on Nama and Rupa. Nama is name. Actually, if you just change a little, tweak the word Nama, it becomes name. Nama, Nema. And Rupa, form. I'm sure there must be some European language which must be using a similar word, Rupa for form, like Nama for name. I don't know. I haven't researched into etymology, so I don't know. So, anyway, so Nama and Rupa are the two things by which we distinguish everything in this world. Necessary, of course. If I don't know your name, at least I can't call you. And the moment I know your name, I know, this is the form. Or, if I know your form, I say, this is so-and-so, the name. So this whole world will live with Nama and Rupa. Without that, we won't be able to distinguish anything. And we are all different. If you are not different, then how do I know who you are? I mean, you might be me. So we are all different. So that we have names and we have forms. What the Upanishad is trying to say, beyond all these names and forms, is the true essence of me and you, which has no name, no form, no nothing. It's the ultimate, all-pervading supreme reality, which we have conditioned because of our experiences and past lives and various things. We have, as a great yogi once said, that we are in some form of a hypnosis. Don't ask me who hypnotizes, but some form of a hypnosis. And the whole process of going back to the source is dehypnotizing oneself from this. You know what is hypnosis? When you hypnotize somebody and draw a line with a chalk on the floor and say this is a river, you can't cross it, you'll be surprised. They try to pull up their pants and go very slowly into the water. There's no water there. There's only a chalk line. So where does it come from? The mind conjures it up. And when you wake up, you don't see any river, there's only a chalk line. And not only that, there's something called a post-hypnotic suggestion. You suggest something to the mind, and then the person wakes up and has forgotten everything, or you think he has forgotten everything. But then it's arranged that at a signal he'll do something. So he might be normal and he's sitting in a party, and then the hypnotist comes and does this, and he stands on his head because it's already been worked into his head. It's called a post-hypnotic suggestion. That's why you have to be careful about gurus. Anyway, do you see me doing anything now? Then there is a description of ceremonial religion. Religion of ceremonies and rituals. Again, necessary, but not the ultimate. Because you have to live in this world. Even getting up in the morning and saying good morning is a ritual. It may be a terrible morning, but we say good morning. You are caught in the ritual. Those who are not accustomed to Western manners, it's difficult. When you go for a walk, for instance, and somebody is walking, it's a formality to say, hey, how are you? And carry on. You say that to an Indian, especially a retired person. How are you? He'll catch you and say, stand, I'll tell you what happened. Reality. The guy will be wondering, I need to finish my run. So there are many rituals. We follow many rituals. That I'm sitting here in a platform and you're sitting down is also a ritual in a way. Maybe necessary, but it is. Right? So what the Upanishad is trying to say is that while rituals may be useful and in some cases also necessary, they are not the ultimate truth. Look, Jyoti, no, what's her name? I'm getting sorry. Jyoti is sitting here and she says, I'm your student. How many years? Yes, in a way, right. That's the outward connection, yes. But actually, if you and I have the same essence, neither am I a teacher nor you a student. I'm looking at the essence. But in the visible world of the five senses and the mind, all these are required maybe sometimes, these rituals. So there are all these religious ceremonies in the Vedas which are meant for various things. Pouring obligations into the fire. But then this Upanishad says, when you do the rituals without understanding the symbology behind it, then you're not reaching anywhere. Not that you shouldn't, but when you do it, you should know why and what of meaning of this. Why are we doing this? So, here is a description. This is that truth. Should I read the Sanskrit? Or are we wasting time? Tad-etat satyam. That is the truth. Mantreshu karmani kavayo yani apasyam stani tretayam bahuda sanatani tani acharatani yatam satyakama eshava pantaha sukratasya loke. This is the truth, says the Upanishad, says the Rishi. The works which the sages, with the great sages saw in the hymns of the Vedas are variously spread forth and divided in the three Vedas. Perform them constantly, O lovers of truth. This is your path to the world of good deeds. Good deeds, the world of good deeds. Which means in the Rig Veda, Yajurveda and Samaveda, there are many hymns. The sages have set them forth beautifully. Go through them and enjoy them, so that when you live in the world of good deeds, you ultimately touch that which is the truth. So here they're talking about the fire sacrifice. Yatha lelayatehi arkis samidhe havyavahane tad ajya bhagav antarena pratipadayat shraddhaya hudam. When the flame moves, when the flame that is lit, the fire sacrifice, moves after the fire has been kindled, when you light today evening we'll light a fire and see what happens. When you light the fire, then the flame starts moving. Then one should, with great faith, throw inside the oblations between the two portions of melted butter. When the fire is lit, you have to throw some oblations into the fire, offerings. And when the offerings are thrown between, this is a symbology, it's a metaphor, two pieces of melted butter into which you pour. Somebody said the two pieces of butter, a great sage interpreted it as one pointed attention and two, subtle intelligence. When the oblations are thrown there, then the flame moves up. Now here I need to explain a few things. In some Hindu deities and Buddhist deities, you see some ferocious forms, right? They call, what do they call? Not furious, what? Wrathful deities. Wrathful deities. In India we have the most wrathful deity you can find, which of course has been adapted into the Buddhist, especially the Mahayana, Vajrayana system. The Hinayana Buddhists have nothing to do with it, the Vajrayana. And among the Dasha Mahavidyas, the 10 important goddesses of knowledge, stands somebody called Bhadragali. Have you seen one? Sometimes you might have seen the Buddhist images of a Dakini drinking blood from a conch shell and so on. Yeah. So, if you see Bhadragali, it's even more terrifying because she's naked, she's dark like the night, her hair is all unruly and left untied and calm, and her right foot is on Shiva who is lying down. and her tongue is out, the ultimate rebellion. The eyes are wide, and traditionally when you describe, she also makes a terrible sound, frightening sound. In her hand is a knife, big sword, bent sword. Left hand. One hand is raised in blessing. And she looks horrifying. The Tantra describes her as Karalavadanam Goram Muktakeshim Chaturbhujam Kaligam Dakshinam Divya Mundamala Vibhushitam, which means here stands the Devi, the terrible Devi, the ferocious Devi with 4 hands, and who wears a garland of human heads. Now you think what a terrible thing for a goddess wearing human heads. So this is, when seeing this, some people got into the conclusion that in ancient India there's all these savage tribals were worshipping her. They forgot the Upanishads, of course. So what does it mean? It simply means that the reality of our life, forget the supreme reality, is violent and is full of blood. And the goddess Kali, who is the supreme reality, she is actually a representation of the Kundalini, the supreme energy. And Shiva is the calm divinity which is lying, and she is dancing on his chest with one leg up. Which means in action, energy can be very, very strong and dangerous in motion. But when it is settled down, then it's no different from Shiva. It's the same. Simply means 2 forms of energy are being. One is energy in dynamics, in dynamic form, which can sometimes be also terrifying. And energy in its calm, quiet, tranquil form, which is Shivam, all auspiciousness and peace. So why the human heads? The person who is looking for the ultimate truth should be ready to cut his ego and throw it as a garland on the Devi's neck. All pride, all everything is here. Can we offer this to the deity? Not really physically. Can we surrender and offer everything that we have to the deity? When that happens, then the deity takes over, and then you reach the Shiva. So that's why she is depicted in that form. And the other definition is of fire, Agni. From ancient times in the Vedas, all ceremonies and sacrifices are done with fire. Now, let's look at this. Fire is a symbol of ignition, of combustion. One spark of fire is enough to burn down the entire forest. You don't need many. Somebody smokes a cigarette and throws the butt, and then before you know it, the whole Californian forest is on fire. You need one spark. And from one candle, you can light 1,000 candles. The flame remains the same. See how symbolic it is of spirit, of the Supreme. And if you light a fire on a stick, hold it down, do you think the fire will burn down or will it go up? It will go up. It cannot go down. So fire is a perfect symbol of spirit. It burns down all that is not required into ashes. And what remains goes upwards, which means reaches the higher spheres. So fire is a symbol. It's also digestion. The Vedas call the digestion the digestive fire. absorbs and digests all the food. Vaishvanara. And then we also normally say, oh, he's fired by a zeal to do something. Fired. In fact, the word Agni is the root of the word Igne, which means to ignite. Just change the spelling a bit. Ignite. So igniting the desire to know the Supreme is also fire. And igniting ordinary desires is also fire. Sometimes you get so interested in somebody that the fire is consuming you completely. Fire is always associated with desire, the burning away, to ascend upwards. So fire, Agni, was worshipped in ancient times, as that which purifies and takes you upwards, as a symbol. And desire, is always like a fire. It can burn you also down. Suppose you have an old girlfriend, and you see her, what do you say? Oh, I saw my old flame. You don't say, I saw my old water, do we? Desire, fire. That which lights your heart, right? So, I don't have any old flame. Well, maybe I have. So, this is a description of the sacrifice which follows, and it says how, when you do a sacrifice, remember the symbology of it and just don't do it and forget about it. Know what you're doing. When you pour the oblations into the fire, know that in the fire that burns inside you, the desire to know the truth, pour everything else into it so that it's turned to ashes and only the fire remains. This is the actual fire sacrifice. The outward fire sacrifice is a symbol of that. And the Upanishad in the next slokas, few slokas, says how we forget the essence and think only of the symbols. And what kind of people are there who think only of the symbols and forget the essence? That is the next description. We do that after the tea break. A small fire is burning inside. For tea. So, we'll come back and discuss.
Can I ask a question now?
Yes, sir.
You mentioned the word omniscience. Knowing it all.
Say that again, I can't hear.
You mentioned the word omniscience.
Omniscience, yes.
Transition. Does it mean that if somebody has attained this higher knowledge, has grasped this highest reality, we can call such person omniscient?
Yeah.
But now, does it mean that he has this higher knowledge, but he doesn't have all of the lower knowledge? Is that true?
Say that again.
Does it mean that such a person has this higher knowledge, but at the same time he doesn't have all the lower knowledge, which is
Quite possible. Quite possible. Because when you touch what the Upanishads are talking about, the highest, then there no longer remains a desire to know anything in the lower areas, except what we need to survive. So it's not necessary for the sage to understand this. However, if he has reached that state, he or she must have reached a high point of one-pointed attention and the capacity to apply his mind to anything he wants to. Therefore, there is a possibility, if such a person wants to understand something in this world, like technology, it's possible for him to understand it faster than another person who doesn't have this capacity. That much is there. But that doesn't mean he should know everything. Yeah. It's interesting because Some people think that when you say you have touched the Supreme, which is omniscient, omnipotent and so on, then you are supposed to know even things about weaving cloth and things you don't know. But if you need to know, it's not so difficult to know as it's with other people. Knowing becomes, but it's not required, that's what I mean. Because look, you're so satisfied and so happy and finally you've reached the ultimate, so it doesn't mean anything. But suppose I need to learn the technology of how to transfer this to somebody else because I think it is very important, then I might have to study a little bit of internet. But it's not so difficult. This is what I'm trying to say. Because the mind has expanded, it's very easy to tap anything you want. But at one time, it doesn't mean that everything is there at this moment. That's what I'm talking. I hope I'm clear in some way.
Yes.
Thank you.
Clarification.
Yes, Anastasia, but what about tea? Okay. I can't argue with her, so. Yes, ma'am.
Would that mean that the sage or the omniscient person, if he does not, if the ordinary lower knowledge, he doesn't have that, does it also mean that he would not know about the inner knowledge, an inner knowing of people, an internal knowing, a seeing, a reading of people's minds or their inner setup and features?
Good question. Let's not let the cat out of the bag.
That's exactly what I hoped.
Well,
With due respect.
it so happens, let me explain this. When the mind becomes absolutely quiet and sensitive, absolutely, then it's not so difficult, if you want, not always, to kind of detect the movements outside in the mind. That's true. But that doesn't mean that one is always trying to read what is in somebody else's mind. You know what? That's what I was trying to clarify. That it's not that. It's that, yeah, when it's necessary, then perhaps it's possible. Because you see, the mind has become so clear, like a curtain, not like a mirror, that it can reflect everything. In fact, I feel myself that when you first ascend to the higher levels of consciousness, and then when you come back to the earth, not physically, the mind, when it comes back, it requires a great deal of effort to survive on this earth because you're bombarded by thoughts. And you should learn slowly how to keep them away and carry on with your life, so that you know, if you need, if somebody is in real trouble, then you can do it. But it's not as if it's always there. Imagine me sitting here and I'm reading all you guys' thoughts. I mean, how do I function? It's a mess. Much of it is muck, but what do I do? I'm sorry, I'm not. I'm sorry, I didn't mean that way. What I mean is, so you're right in a way, yes. But let's not advertise that. Then you know what will happen? People come to you and instead of telling you their problems, they'll just sit down and say, come on, you can read it now. Sometimes when someone actually talks and says and confesses and talks about their problems, they get solved even without an answer. That's what the psychiatrist does in the chair. He makes you talk, or she makes you talk, and finally everything is exhausted. Now you don't know what to say. He says, go home. Thank you.